What's going on, everybody? It's Rick from Worms with Rick. Today's Worm Wednesday. This is the VermiHut Plus. Going to go ahead and check the last feeding out. I have a bunch of bedding to add to this too. I definitely have some little bit of mold looking stuff going on in here, which I'm okay with. Bunch of worms on the outside. On the side here, it's pretty damp. I haven't added any moisture to this portion of the bin. About a week ago, I added a bunch of water to the lower section. So between the feeding and then maybe kind of like the humidity, it made this a little more damp. I don't know. This is the 7-day check-in. I added a bunch of bedding, but you can see it's all kind of matted down. And then I also added a bunch of coffee grinds and coffee grounds, and hopefully that's coming through. It's kind of like moldy there. So those coffee grounds definitely help bring some of the biological activity into the worm bin. I'm going to quick check. I believe I had a half a banana in here. We'll just see how everything's going. Oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of worms right there. Okay, so I just want to kind of show, like I said, I had a question. Why don't you have like a big worm ball? The issue is if you don't get into the bin within a few days, anywhere from 4 to 7, maybe even 10, typically when they consume all the food, they move to another section and area of the bin. So yeah, I mean, it's just, this here's loaded with worms, and this is the banana here. There's the corn cob, and it's got a bunch of worms inside of it. What I'll do is drop some of that fresher bedding in here, and then get that little worm party back in where the bedding is. One of the main reasons why I came to check in on this is the lowest tray was pretty dry the last time. So I did give it a pretty wet feeding, so I can check after 7 days, see how that's looking. And then also I'm going to add some water. So let me move these trays and we'll see how the bottom tray's looking. Okay, if you can see all this loose kind of bedding, there was a lot stuck to the bottom of the middle tray. I have a bunch of castings it's looking like in these corners. Some worms down here, just kind of checking it out. They're kind of playing more in the corners. Let me see. Yeah, there's a bunch of worms down there. So I will, when I have more time for the next feeding, I'll get in on that. Things that I do want to do for this, I want to add a little bit of grit. So my ground up eggshells. I want to add some of the coffee from the K-cups. And then my friend Sandra, she recommended this, is to give this some water and even allow it to trickle down into that basin. So what I'm going to do is rinse my glove off, because that has castings on it, and that can help kind of keep inoculating this lower tray. And also my buddy Brian, he always suggests running this just a little wetter. I don't know if you can hear or see it, but I do have water dripping through, and that'll actually give the worms that are down in that basin area a little bit of moisture, and I will see how much collects down there in 7 days. Yeah, wow. So in the 2-week time, all the food scraps are gone. These are the 2 pieces of the cob from the corn on the cob. Oh, there's my banana peel. Ooh, a little worm ball action. They're looking good. So I just shredded up some of the brown paper bags. Really trying to bulk this up, so that's why I added a lot of the shredding. I'm going to add some coffee grounds right to this section. Still using the K-cups and able to get some coffee. I have a paper towel that I used earlier this week to wash my hands, so I just put it to the side because I knew I was going to need to help clean off my fingers a little bit. And then what's nice is I'll just put this over top the feeding, and the worms will eat this up too. This will basically be for next week's check-in. There's 3 orange halves. They were in the freezer and then thawed out. Some people, when they see that, they kind of freak out. They're like, you can't feed onions or citrus to the worm bin. You absolutely can. This is a very mature bin, lots of castings. So the bacteria and the microbes is very high in this bin. So this should not be a problem. And we'll get a chance to see in about 2 weeks what's left of this for the next check-in. So going with a pretty big feeding because everything was gone from the last one. That's pulp from the juicer. My brother goes ahead and creates juices weekly and then saves the scraps for me. On top of this, I'm gonna go ahead and add some of my ground up eggshell. This is a grit source for the worms. I basically eat around 6 to 8 eggs over the weekend. So as opposed to just always throwing them out in the garden into my compost pile or throwing them away, I use them as a grit source for the worms. And I feel that they really enjoy it. So I just keep adding it. Once the worms actually eat that and it goes through their intestines and they process it, it actually has to be processed a few times, but that helps to release the calcium later on when I put it into the garden. As always, after I do the feeding, I want to make sure that I cover the food scraps up, preferably with castings. There we go. So kind of go one last wipe off with this. I will add my worm chow, which is expired and pulverized oats, flour, and cornmeal. Just another food source for the worms. I have it on hand. I would not really go out to purchase it, but if you have something expired and you can grind it up, this is good for the worms, because as it takes a little bit of time for the microbes to start breaking down the food scraps that I just put in, this is available for the worms right now. And because I just made some space, I'm going to add some more bedding. Okay. And this guy, see, I got the castings. I'll put the castings down. So, extremely happy with how full this is now. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you what I watered 7 days ago and see how that's looking. One thing to be mindful of with the VermiHut system, if you're lifting, it is putting weight down on the lower levels, and your bedding can stick to the underside. So I just kind of lift up the corners and then run my hand, and I just knocked some castings and bedding off the bottom. So hopefully it'll stay kind of in the middle here, and I can show you once I get this out of the way. Not sure how well this is coming through, but see how this is real flat? This here's kind of flat and here's kind of flat, but right here isn't. This was all stuck to the bottom of the trays. So this here has just a tiny bit of moisture in it. Not much, so I will probably add a little bit more water down here. What is kind of incredible is this is typically how everything starts. That high, that much volume, and then the worms just keep eating it down, and that's why you kind of have to continue to add the bedding for them so they have the fresh bedding, because once this all breaks down, it turns into very fine castings, and then the worms basically need a fresh carbon source for the bedding. And for that, with this bin, I typically only use either paper, cardboard, or the brown paper bags. I will add some more water and clean my glove off a little bit. I want to say thanks to Sandra and Brian. Both suggest a little wetter bedding, so that's what I'm trying to keep going for that lower tray for the time being. Let's check underneath. See, I did leave a little bit of paper down here for them. There's a couple worms there. I'm just going to go ahead and put these guys into that lower tray. Well, a kind of neat thing to show you while I'm here is this basin has kind of a lip on it, and these trays have these little feet. So those little feet have to be inside, and then this kind of locks in so it can't slide out. And then when I go to put the other tray on, there's these little grooves on the outside here, and they have to have your tray on the inside, and that kind of helps to lock it back into. Wow, that was probably one of the first times I've done it on the first try. Okay. So there we go. This was a really nice feeding. I guess I can wipe some of this off here too. That'll give that bedding a little inoculation off my glove. Okay. Good enough. So I'm glad you guys were able to check this video out. If you're not subscribed, definitely think about subscribing. I really appreciate it. The questions have been very good still. Keep them coming. I do appreciate the questions and the comments. Well, thanks for coming along, checking out this feeding. Everybody have a great day.